Topic time. It's topic time.
Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of Topic Time. And this week we are talking about, is DC Comics getting stale? So I don't know if we're going to get all our banners up, but if you want to check us out at social media.
Second. Sorry. Yeah. Whoop.
That's all our names. So if you want to check us out individually. And also every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, we do a comic show. So if you like this video, definitely go check that out. So the reason we want to talk about this topic is because there was an article that came out this week that, and honestly, there's been a few articles about DC Comics and them talking about their brand and everything. But the big topic being that digital sales are, plateauing. It's not as high as they've been expecting. And especially with them converting to DC Universe, you would think their sales will be higher, but maybe because of DC Universe, people are just buying that platform and not buying digital comics anymore. So what does everyone think about their sales going down? And we're going to go into the nitty gritty of the state of DC Comics as we talk about this topic.
So where do we want to start from?
Yeah, Chris, why don't you go first?
The sales declining, I feel like it has a lot to do with what we're going to be talking about, but I also feel like, right now the major things going on with DC is the Year of the Villain, and that's all over the place. And you have also Event Leviathan, you've got delays. I feel like DC's kind of, ever since, Rebirth, they kind of derailed a little bit from where they were going. And I think a lot of fans have fallen off books for one reason or another. And I think that's why the sales are definitely shrinking. You also have the double shipping that's stopping now for most books. Stories that have gone on since Rebirth, like with Batman and Detective. Rebirth, when Bendis took over after Action 1000, taking over the whole franchise. There are definitely a lot of factors to why the sales went. You dropped a lot of DC books. Why did you drop them?
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is that, Rebirth, I've read DC books from Rebirth, but what is that noise?
Yeah, here's some feedback.
It's my water softener in my garage. What's going on? Yeah. So that's what you hear.
All right, go on, Michael.
So, there were a lot of books that I used to read that I dropped, like Justice League Dark I've dropped because their story...
Deathstroke too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because their story was just, long dialogue, and then it was really not piquing my interest. And then there was another book that I recently didn't get physically anymore, Red Hood Outlaw.
Yep.
Because it was mostly focusing on Jason Todd and not Bizarro and Artemis.
Well, it changed to Outlaw.
It did, but I'm just saying that it used to be those three that I was mostly interested in reading, and I was kind of getting a little as well.
Are you reading any DC books, Michael?
Green Arrow is no more because that left.
So,
Green Arrow I really enjoyed reading. Because it really...
Well, Catman, are you reading any currently?
Other than Red Hood Outlaw, I can't...
You're not reading that either, so...
No, he is reading it. He dropped it physically.
Yeah, Teen Titans I'm reading, because Teen Titans is a good book. Mm-hmm. There's also... not really as many as I can think of.
I think those are the only two you are reading.
Yeah, I really can't think of anything else.
Yeah. What does everyone else think about the digital sales going down? Is it just echoing the same thing about it?
The article didn't say going down. It said plateauing.
Plateauing. I'm sorry. Well, plateauing. Yeah, which I mentioned.
Plateauing just means that they've hit. They're not going up any. They're not going down. They're just not going up any. And I think that just has to do with, because he also said physical books are still growing. So the physical sales is still growing. And he say. What he was saying in the article was that a lot of people are saying that digital is the way of it, is the way of the future, that's where it's going to be at. But for them, what they're seeing is digital has plateaued for them. More people are buying physical DC than digital DC. And I also think it has to do with just the way that there's all these programs, there's all these I can't think of the name of it right now, but like a program or whatever, where you get all these services where you get like, oh, you know, you join comic whatever, and you get, you know, you can download so many comics for free or whatever, you know, like that. So like they have those. You're getting digital comics for free in bulk. Certain books are getting them. So I think those all play into the fact that people aren't buying them physically. And again, a lot of people wait till they go onto digital services like DC Universe, which is I think a year now after it's released. They'll go onto there. It'll be released on there. So I think a lot of people are just waiting for that because those are people who trade weight anyway. So I think those people are just waiting for that. And I just don't think it's like no one's interested in them. I just think that it's just not digitally. It's not a thing for them. You know, so I just think digital's not seller for them.
I mean, when you have one of the co-publishers of the company say it's disheartening and that you've hit a wall with them, I think that's pretty telling. And
especially publicly.
Publicly, and and the way he put it was, that they needed to get better at advertising to people, and that they needed to change the way that they were marketing them and doing different things like that. And when you come to that realization as a publisher that it's so, it's a plateauing instead of falling or decreasing, but still, that means in recent years you haven't increased that at all, which, speaking from a business standpoint, that's not good at all. So I just think it's really telling of the way that they've not been able to get to that market. And as Jim Lee put it, where you consider digital the future, and they're not able to move their books in that.
I just think the digital as a whole isn't selling as much anymore. It's like Marvel doesn't even sell that much either because they got Marvel Unlimited. A lot of people.
Well, we don't know the numbers of Marvel, so we can't say if it is or isn't. We just know that DC has plateaued. We don't know what Marvel is doing.
Comic digital sales are just not as good as they were when they first started. Because there's other services offering like Comixology, Unlimited or whatever that program's called. They're offering it. Marvel Unlimited is offering.
Which I don't even know if it's included in their DC Universe sales, though. So they'd probably be able to look at who's reading what on DC Universe. So maybe that's included in their digital, quote unquote, sales. We don't know.
They said their back catalog is still well. Like he's saying that they're not reading it as people who go to their digital stuff. They like their back catalog a lot. That's what he said, and that goes for both visual and the shows and the books. They do go through their back catalog a lot. Which again, that's what I think a lot of people are waiting for. They're waiting for those and like Marvel Unlimited.
We do have to move on from the digital topic because we are 8 minutes in. So we're going to talk about the other stuff. Unless Mike, I know you haven't said anything yet. So is there any other thing you want to add for the digital topic?
Yeah, just real quick. I just wanted to say I think it's a combination of things. I think that's what it is. I think when it comes to DC and their comics, there's not as much new stuff that's out. And I think a lot of people that do have DC Universe, I think are really there for the shows. And then they buy their comics, physically. I think, honestly, that's what it's there for. I think that's its true niche is their TV shows. They're not there to read the comics. I think they'll buy their comics and just watch the shows. So that's all I have to say about that.
And now we're going to go into the next topic, which is delays. So there's been a ton of delays from DC. Obviously, the big one that a lot of people have been talking about is Doomsday Clock. And then just recently, we've had a lot of Shazam delays. I think it's on its 8th week now of a delay.
Seven was delayed, which pushes back 8 through 10, basically.
So 7 weeks of a delay for Shazam. And obviously those are all John's books. And also Superman, Supergirl being delayed because of cover issues. They're like, oh, this cover doesn't depict the story anymore. So whatever happened, back of the house there, that also delays Legion of Superheroes. And I guess that could go into our other topic, which is why is our pull list so low for DC? Honestly, a big reason why we did this topic is that we all noticed like, oh yeah, I'm reading one DC book this week. How about last week? 1? And then you go, oh, my heavy week is like 3. And obviously that affects your overall pull list, where a lot of us here that just are very, I don't want to say picky of our pull list, but we pick and choose for our pull list are up to now 10 a week. Like me and Mike, and honestly, I would say everyone except Jay here. I think, we've limited our pull list a lot because of it. So yeah, what do you think this is affecting your enjoyment of DC Comics? For me, 100%. And that goes into the other topic of fresh voices. I feel like there's like 3 people on DC. Obviously, I'm exaggerating. There are more, but Bendis has like 10, 12.
12.
Yeah. And then you have Tom King, who's on a lot of books. It just feels like the same people over and over again, and there's not any fresh voices. I don't think there's enough female writers there. That's another thing that we've kind of discussed. I mean, we have a Birds of Prey book that's not written by a woman. Barbara's not in it. It's crazy. So yeah, I've just been really disappointed, and I haven't been really excited for a DC book in a really long time. I think 4 of them made my pick of the week this year. Yeah, that's kind of my overall thoughts. Even like books I love, like Batgirl, hasn't really been in my top 5. It's just there. And that's how I feel about a lot of their books.
With Jeff Johns' delays, I'm sorry, go ahead, Brent.
No, I was just gonna say, when it comes to delay, I was saying the same thing. When it comes to delays, obviously especially with a book like Doomsday Clock, when it's an event book and it's kind of shaping different parts of the universe, or it's supposedly shaping different parts of the universe, it's definitely going to have an effect on your reading enjoyment. But even books like Shazam, and it's actually pushed back 13 weeks is what the article said. So 3 months they're pushing that back, which pushes back the entire thing. So you get this series where people are excited. We were excited about it. And, building off the buzz of the movie, which was, well received. And then you have to push your entire series back 3 months. And it's killing that buzz that you've built up for it. With Doomsday Clock, we've talked so much about the delays on that. With a book like that, it really needed to be in the can before they solicited it.
And there's so much weight to it where I made a lot of jokes this week on the show where I was just like, oh yeah, but everything will be answered in Doomsday Clock. But it can't be. Nothing possibly could all be answered in Doomsday Clock, and everything could be resolved. Where anytime there's a problem, DC is like, yeah, but don't worry, Doomsday Clock's going to answer all. It's like, no, we can't keep relying on that. I think there's a time and a point where you're just like, no, maybe DC just doesn't have the answer right now. And that is affecting the way we read these books.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I agree with Kat. I think that the reason it was delayed because they truly don't know where they want their universe to actually go.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest problem. We have a lot of books that don't exist that maybe should exist these days. They streamlined their comics to, they whittled down the titles that they have, which I can understand, and I don't have a problem with that. But when you leave out some main characters out of your universe, I think that's a problem.
And are they great titles? I think I would feel better if I'm like, I'm enjoying these books so much, but there's nothing I'm like, yeah, can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you're Jeff Johns, right, and I agree with you, Brant, about the whole situation with the book should have been in the can, should have been done. You got 2 titles that you're writing right now, right? You're writing Doomsday Clock and you're writing Shazam.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't get those titles out in time, what do people do? They lose interest. They're like, I'm not going to read this. I'm not going to buy it when it comes out. If anything, I'll read it when the trade comes out. And that's going to be even further down the line. And that's just very disappointing towards a reader, especially in a major company like DC. Independents, we've seen it all the time. But for DC to have this kind of delays, I think, is a problem.
And it's forgivable for indies because it's mostly money issues. It's more of like, okay, we need money to make this book. And that's the reason why indies are delayed. But yeah, DC has no excuse.
And with an event like Doomsday Clock, and I'll just say this real quick, because of the impact, and like you said, it's such a weighty thing for the entire universe. When it gets delayed that much, then the universe has to continue on, and they've moved past that story.
We're way
past that story that it's like it's not going to make as the same impact that it would have, or they have to change it, which is possibly why it keeps getting delayed. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I was going to say with the delays. I mean, at first I thought it was just Jeff Johns with the event. I thought it was the event that was being delayed because they wanted to change things. And like everybody else here is saying, I'm going to echo it. No matter what. When it comes to this event, it's so far in the past already that they have to modify it to make any difference in the present. And now with Shazam being delayed, you got to question, is Jeff Johns slowing down to a point where now he can only do like maybe 1 book at a time?
Honestly, he has a lot on his plate. We're not saying he's just sitting around.
Oh, no.
He's
literally one of the heads
outside of a writer. And we don't know the delay reason for Shazam. We don't know that. But we do know that Doomsday Clock, we do know is not Jeff Johns' fault. He said that book's all written. That's all on Gary and Frank. They're taking the time with the art on that. So, and I do agree they should have had Doomsday Clock in the can before they ever released one issue of it. And I think that's the main thing with everything else. And I think that's delayed, so they're trying to put the weight on their universe on the conclusion of that book, and that's delaying everything else. And that's why we're getting these books that are not out right now, because they're like, well, instead of just giving subpar stories all the time that we're hearing people getting mad about, let's cancel the book and we'll relaunch it when we are ready for it. And I think that's hurting them in the long run, because you do have a lot of people who like those characters, like Michael, who loves Green Arrow, but they can't use him right now because they have other plans for him, and it's got to wait for this story to get done before you can get into that story. And as far as the diversity goes, I like that they don't have a female writer on Birds of Prey. And
as a guy, you like that, of course. Though it's like
no, it's not that. I would rather have a female writer write a Green Arrow book or a Batman book or a Superman book, because I think that's more diverse than just having a female writing a female book. I think that's just like pandering.
I think the type of writer who's writing it, Azzarello, who did what happened with Batgirl.
I don't like Azzarello. I'm not saying Azzarello is a good writer. I'm just saying I'd rather have a if I want a female writer in there, I would rather see a female writer write a book that's not like, oh, she's a woman writer, so she has to write Wonder Woman.
I agree with that, but I think
this is a female writer. Let's give her Batman.
No, I agree with that, but I think an all-female team like Birds of Prey, who has been written by guys before and has been written by one woman, deserves another female writer. I think there's a different point of view to write female characters as a full female team.
Yeah. Going back to that whole point of it feels like there's only 3 writers and that kind of thing, it goes back to a point we were talking about in the live show with Bendis and Rucka kind of mirroring each other in their writing styles for these characters, and even though it's different writers, it feels like the same. You know what I mean? Because it's you've got this universal tone going through it, which is good continuity wise, but it feels like you're reading the same stuff over and over and over again from the same people. And yeah, I think we need to change it up and get some fresh voices on these characters, male or female, just something different that we haven't seen before, and stop going to that well that we're bored of.
And when I was going to say, when I was saying fresh voices, I don't mean that we have to just hire 50-50 female writers. I definitely wasn't saying that, but I do believe, as a writer trying to break into the industry, and many writers trying to break in the industry, there's great writers out there. I don't think DC or Marvel, I'll give it them too. I don't think they give a chance for people at all to open those floodgates. I think DC tried with the workshop, but then why aren't those workshop people actually writing DC books? They wrote a story and that's it.
It's like to get it's to get to that level, you have to prove yourself somewhere else, usually in most cases.
And that's with a lot of industries, though, not just comic book industry. Like a lot of it's a catch 22. You have to have a name before you can make a name, but you can't make a name without having a name.
Right.
So there's a lot of that in any industry. There's that.
All right. Well, we are, I think, going to start wrapping up. Obviously, this is such a huge topic. We could go on for a really long time talking about it. But yeah, any other thoughts to wrap up?
My last thought is that we don't want anybody to think that we're just trashing on DC. No. It always seems like whenever Marvel is doing really well, DC is sucking, and vice versa. DC is doing well, and then Marvel's sucking. It just seems like this is DC's turn right now, and they need to just sort some things out. And I'm sure in time, we'll get these great stories like we did when Rebirth first came out. That's the level of DC that I want back again. When Rebirth first came out, that was great and exciting. Doesn't mean reboot the whole universe again, but just bring back some, good stories.
That key word being excited.
And see, that's the thing for me that's lacking right now. Aside from, I'm really enjoying Teen Titans, but aside from that, I feel a lack of general excitement or enthusiasm about some of these books that I pick up, and it's like, oh, do I even want to read this right now? And I think that's a problem, and it's not just me. If it was just me, it's like, okay, well, my sensibilities have changed. I'm not in line with what their target audience is, but it's a lot of people that are dissatisfied with what they're putting out right now.
Yeah. So, and also just to mention, I know a lot of us here are Marvel fans as well, but you should see all the criticism we've had for Marvel. And I think this is the first good year in a really long time. And I think that's why we've been really.
I don't think either of them are doing well, honestly. I don't think either. I think the indies are doing better this year again.
I think Marvel's doing better than they have been doing. I'll put it like that.
I've been enjoying a lot of Marvel titles.
But I don't think they're doing well.
I've been enjoying an extreme amount of Marvel titles this year. I think I've had about 30 pick of the weeks for Marvel this year. So I've personally been really enjoying Marvel this year, and obviously everything's subjective. But I mean, indies have been doing good too. But I mean, we could go on a whole nother route. I don't think Image is as strong as it used to be. I think indies need to up their game a bit too. Which might be a whole different topic for another time if you guys want us to talk about it. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed the topic time. And yeah, definitely subscribe, ring that bell. And every Tuesday, if you enjoyed these type of conversations, we do it every week live at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So definitely go check that out. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
Bye.